Before the judgment fell, before the waters swallowed the mountains, there was a forgotten time, a world before the flood, shrouded in mystery and silenced by history. It was an era when the sky still touched the earth, when the sunlight knew no shadow of sin, and the winds blew through the trees with the same breath that had created the heavens and the earth. Creation still pulsed with the original presence of God. Eden had already been sealed, but its echoes could still be heard in the morning breezes and the tinkling of leaves. It was a young, wild, glorious and untamed land, a world where nature lived in perfect harmony with the heart of the Creator. Men walked with time, and time was long. They lived for centuries, watching the earth flourish, learning from existence itself. Music was made with harps of pure wood, and stones served as altars. Science was not cold nor analytical. It was mystical, revealed through dreams, stars, and voices whispered in the silence of dawn. But behind this innocent beauty, something began to stir, something dark, something that had fallen even before man was formed from clay, something that did not accept the divine plan, something that desired to dominate, corrupt, destroy. The book of Genesis says that the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful and took as many as they wanted. But this brief phrase hides an abyss of revelations and horrors. The ancients called them watchers, the guardians of the heavens, sent by God to observe the earth. But 200 of them broke the covenant. They descended on Mount Hermon and there sealed a dark oath among themselves. They would take human wives, know their bodies, and bear children. It would not be mere lust. It would be rebellion against the heavens themselves. These celestial beings did not merely descend, they taught. They gave men forbidden knowledge. Sorcery, corrupted astrology, enchantments, the art of forging swords and spears, the makeup used to seduce, the poisons that killed in silence. Humanity, seduced, applauded, and thus was born the generation of giants, the Nephilim, hybrid, violent, insatiable beings. They devoured everything, animals, crops, men. They were blood hunters, building fortresses and dominating cities. Not only by strength, but by fear. They were seen as gods. They were worshipped. Their names were carved in stones, their stories sung in profane psalms, and the world forgot God. In this corrupt world of violence and lust, there lived a man who did not follow the crowd, Noah, righteous, blameless, a remnant of Eden in a rotting planet. He walked with God even when all mocked him, even when his faith seemed madness. And God saw him, saw that, among millions, there was one who still remembered the sound of his voice. Meanwhile, the earth sank. Blood flowed on stone altars where children were sacrificed to demonic entities. Nightly feasts mixed orgies with rituals. Men lay with men, women with beasts. There were transgressions that words cannot express. Deformed creatures, born from experiments between men and corrupted beings, roamed the fields as living abominations. It was a world where the DNA of creation was being rewritten. The image of God was being defiled. And then, the silence of heaven broke. The Creator's pain turned into a decree. I will destroy from the face of the earth the man I have created. But first, he would give time for the ark to be built, for the final call to echo. While hunters celebrated, while tyrants raised towers, and wise men taught sorcery to children, Noah worked, plank by plank, cut by cut, a sanctuary in the form of madness, a hope no one wanted. His sons helped him, but even among them, there were doubts. After all, it had never rained. The earth was watered by mists. To speak of a flood was like speaking of fire underwater, unimaginable. But Noah listened and obeyed. With each hammer strike, judgment drew nearer. In other lands, the Nephilim sensed it. Their fathers, the fallen angels, had been imprisoned, cast into deep prisons, chained in abysses, awaiting the judgment of the last day. But their sons were not punished in the same way. They remained, they ruled. And when they learned that destruction was coming, they tried to stop it. They started wars, attacked faithful cities, killed the righteous, persecuted the descendants of Seth, the few who still feared the name of YHWH. The earth filled with clamor, and the heavens armed themselves. The oldest traditions speak of warrior angels sent by God to fight the aberrations, a celestial and terrestrial war, men and angels battling beasts, giants, demonic empires. The skies darkened not by storm, but by the spiritual battle waged above the clouds. Lightning cut the horizon, but they were not natural thunder. They were signs of imminent judgment. And then the voice came. On a silent morning, when the last plank had been fixed, God spoke to Noah, not in thunder, but as a whisper that pierces the soul. Enter you and all your household into the ark, for I have seen you as righteous in this generation. Noah wept. His eyes, calloused by dust and mockery, filled with tears. The time had come. Animals began to arrive, two by two, in strange forms, as if guided by an invisible force. Lions and lambs walked side by side. Birds perched on his son's shoulders. Serpents slithered among the timbers. There was no panic, there was obedience. Something greater was moving everything. It was the finger of God. The crowds laughed, danced, celebrated. Some came to the ark. They mocked, beat on the planks. They called Noah a fool. They said, "Where is the rain, old fool? Where is your God?" But the door closed, and it was not Noah who locked it. The hand of the Most High sealed the final warning of ancient history. And then the sky turned gray. The sky hung heavy, dense, as if holding a trapped sigh. An absolute silence dominated the fields, and even the animals seemed restless, as if they knew what men refused to believe. Clouds began to gather, thick, black as coal, swirling in a silent vortex, slowly forming over the mountains. Lightning cut the heavens in jagged lines, but there was still no sound. It was as if time itself had stopped, giving creation one last moment of contemplation. And then the first drop fell. Timid, almost insignificant, it touched the dry ground and raised a small plume of dust. Then another, and another, until the sky opened with fury. Rain, not ordinary rain. It was a liquid judgment, heavy, continuous, violent, and it did not come only from above. The fountains of the great deep broke open, the ground cracked as if it were living flesh. From within it gushed hot, bitter, merciless waters. Rivers that did not exist came into being. The earth began to tremble. The mountains groaned. Men screamed. Some ran to the ark. They beat on it, begged, tore their garments, and promised sacrifices. But it was too late. The door did not open. For the door was now a sentence, a seal, the end of an era. Inside the ark, Noah, his wife, his sons and daughters-in-law were silent. The sound of rain hammered the roof like an orchestra of the end. The animals stirred but did not rebel. The smell of wet wood, straw, and living breath filled the space. Outside, chaos multiplied. Houses were swept away. The towers of the Nephilim crumbled as if made of sand. Fields turned into lakes, and the screams, oh, the screams, echoed through the waters. There were no more pagan priests, no more mockers, no more triumphant giants. All were equal now, drowned by the same sentence. For 40 days and 40 nights the water did not stop. The heavens and the deep conspired against the corrupted creation. Bodies floated, screams ceased. The world became an ocean of silence, and in the midst of this formless sea, a structure floated, the Ark. A cocoon of hope wrapped in divine fury. On board, there was a miniature New Eden, a restart. But there was also fear. Inside, Noah prayed. His knees were bruised, his hands trembled. He did not know what would come next. He only knew he had obeyed. Outside, the waters rose above the hills, the mountains. until they covered the highest peak. Everything that breathed died. But this is not just a tale of destruction, it is a story of restart. For even when God judges, he thinks of what comes after. Even when he destroys, he preserves a seed. The rain stopped, the sky cleared, the clouds dissipated, and the sound of the wind replaced the roar of the waters. Slowly, very slowly, the sea that covered everything began to recede. The ark, carried by mysterious currents, was guided to rest on the mountains of Ararat. There, among wet stones and cold winds, hope anchored. Noah released a raven, then a dove, and when the dove returned with a green leaf in its beak, tears flowed. It was the sign. Life endured. The earth breathed again. The door opened, not with fanfare, but like a birth. The animals emerged one by one, guided by instinct and obedience. Noah's feet touched the saturated ground with reverence. It was a new creation. The air was fresh, the light was soft. There was silence, but a different silence, a silence full of promises. He built an altar, took stones, lit a fire, sacrificed in gratitude, and God smelled the aroma and blessed. He said, "Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth." And he made a covenant, not only with Noah, but with all creation. And as a sign, he drew in the sky a bow of colors, the rainbow, not as decoration, but as a memorial, as a covenant, as a reminder to God himself that he would never again destroy the earth with water. But what of the Nephilim and the mysteries of that ancient world? The Bible says that giants appeared again after those days. How? Were there survivors? Were corrupted genes carried by one of the wives of Noah's sons? Or did the wandering spirits of the Nephilim, without bodies to inhabit, become the demons that now torment men? There are questions with no clear answers, but there are signs, traces, and one certainty: the antediluvian world left marks. Ancient civilizations speak of floods. In every culture, Sumerians, Chinese, Aztecs, Egyptians, there are accounts of a great inundation, of giant beings, of gods who came from the sky, of cosmic wars, of lights that fell from the stars. Modern science tries to explain with metaphors, but the echoes are too real to be ignored. The world before the flood was real. It was vast, it was complex, and it was judged. Not because God is cruel, but because corruption had crossed the line of what could be repaired. A reset was necessary, and we today walk those same paths again. Science manipulates genes, men mock the Creator, violence grows. Love grows cold, nature groans, the heavens watch, and the promise of Jesus echoes. As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. If this is true, then the waters will not come again, but fire, yes. The story of the ancient world is not just a memory, it is a warning. The flood is not just an event, it is a prophecy. What was, will be again. And those who mock today will laugh until the door closes. Until the first drop falls, not of water but of judgment. With eyes fixed on the horizon and feet firm on the renewed earth, Noah did not see only a new world before him. He saw an eternal reminder of God's justice and mercy. Every sprouting leaf, every animal running free, every ray of sun cutting through the still damp clouds was a living promise. The story of the flood does not end with destruction, but with rebirth. And we today live between the rainbow and the next judgment. May we be like Noah, not perfect but faithful, for the ark can be built again within the heart.